Young love. It's all about each other. Just you and your significant other, and life is great, no cares in the world, and then a little baby comes along. A baby? A baby? Oh my God! Diapers? All these things cause super stresses in couples that were not stressed before. I want to break down today what this little bouncing baby bundle of joy can do to disrupt a relationship and how you can avoid those potholes and make your relationship back to what it was before. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Why do couples break up after having a child? Well, to understand that, we have to understand ourselves first. So let's break down some methodology so that we can continue this conversation after this portion of the program. Outgoing folks and reserved folks. So when I talk about this outgoing personality style, these folks are fast-paced, involved, energetic, optimistic, positive, enthusiastic. Woo! Take the leg by the tail, just sling it around and throw it somewhere. When conflict comes along, however, though, they focus on talking things out. Hey, Alicia, how are you? Hey, can I help you? Can I help you? Hey, you good? You good? You good? You good? You good? And she wants to slap my hand away. And so if she's more a reserved person, she's going to be a little bit slower paced. Now, that doesn't mean she works slowly. That means just she's slow to act or get engaged because she wants to think things through before she speaks. So they're cautious folks, they're concerned, they're reluctant, critical thinkers, and always discerning. And when conflict comes along for them, they focus on thinking things through. Should I? Nope. But don't have all the facts yet. And that's their mentality. All right, so where are you on that scale of outgoing versus reserved? If you're outgoing, kind of remember that I'm towards the top of the screen. If you're reserved, you're more towards the bottom of the screen. We're going to divide you into people person, or if you're more of a task-oriented person. People-oriented folks are all about caring and sharing and relationships and emotions and feelings and friendships. They focus on the opinions of others and how they feel. So we tend to be pretty emotional, and I am very much a people-oriented person. I'm an emotional guy. You know, I cried during the movie Frozen. Nobody does that, but I did because my daughter was there, and she's gonna have a boyfriend one day and get married. And she said, "Pull it together, Dad." Anyway, because she's more of a task-oriented person. She's all about procedure and function and forms and programs and processes and analytics. She focuses on getting things done at the end of the day. So now you're finding yourself on the top of the screen or the bottom of the screen, and you're on the left side or right side. So let's define a little bit about what each one of these quadrants mean. So we've got these outgoing, task-oriented people. We're going to call you high Ds, or dominant styles. Never met a challenge you couldn't face, love to be in charge, take charge mentality. Then we've got our outgoing and people-oriented folks. Those are our inspiring styles. We're going to call you high Is. Just love influencing others, oozing charisma all the time, just like to be in and around people. You're all about having fun. And then we have our supportive styles. Those are our reserved and people-oriented. Kind folks, make super friends. They're great listeners, give you the shirt off their back. They're just wonderful people and the glue of any organization. And then we have our high Cs, which are our reserved and task-oriented people. These folks are analytical. They are, think about accountants, lawyers, doctors, those kind of people who are just high-level thinkers. These people are the E.F. Hutton of the disc world. If you remember the old commercial, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. That's right, people listen. So C's don't really say a whole lot most times, but when they do, they've really thought through what they have to say, and it's usually like, oh, pretty epic in terms of the results of that. Now, we're all a unique blend of these four traits. So we all have a little bit of D, a little bit of I, a little bit of S, and a little bit of C, some in more categories than others. I'm an IS. You know, my I is really, really high, my S is really high, and then everything else kind of falls towards the bottom of the scale. You've probably heard the term, united we stand, divided we fall. And that applies to couples as well. You guys are focused on each other and life is good, and you know, you've got hobbies and career and maybe things that you enjoy doing together outside of your own hobbies or whatever it happens to be. And life is fine that way. I mean, the stress levels are fairly low. Your enjoyment level of each other is very high. But then when little junior or little daughter comes along, then we start talking about, okay, we're pregnant, so What are we going to name this child? Is it a boy or a girl? Do we want to find out? Do we not? Do we have an exploding balloon? Do we have a birthday reveal cake? What do we do? And then, so once we got a name and once we picked out what was going on, then we got to pick a hospital, and then we've got to pack the bags, and then we got to decide, are we going to do this natural? We're going to do this with epidural? We're going to do this with drugs? And then what kind of stroller are we going to buy? And what kind of car seat are we going to have? And then, where are they going to go to daycare once they get older? Are they going to stay home? You can feel the anxiety in my voice just thinking about that. And that's the way it happened for me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times over, as I have 5 children. So every time we had yet another child, we had those same kind of conversations, and they produced a lot of stress. And ultimately, the focus that you have as a couple, which is on each other, and then maybe career and maybe hobbies, there's only so much focus you can have. And so your focus is split in a few ways. Once a child comes along, or 2 children, or 3, or up to 5, then your focus gets split every time. And so this big piece of pie that you have, that's your time and your effort and your focus, is split in so many different ways that the couple's time with each other, which was the whole thing to start with, now becomes 50%, and then it becomes 25% until it's this tiny little sliver where you're not spending hardly any time at all, if at all, because junior comes first, and we got to get them through school and all this kind of stuff. And we got to get to the soccer games, and we got to go to the dance contests and all this kind of stuff. And we do what we do, and we get into these habits of let's spend time with the children and focusing on them, and we don't forget to spend time on us. So they haven't even turned 2 yet, and you're up to your eyeballs in stress and all the decisions that you have to make. And we're not even talking about compatibility when you first met each other. Were you in the same running club, or did you meet at church together? And from that perspective, those things that might be incompatible manifest themselves under stress. So we have these tiny little cracks in our relationship. We don't even realize we have them. And then when stress comes along, these cracks become wide gaps and just gaping holes and create even more stress for us. So when we think about building a relationship from scratch, when you first met, did you explore the 5 love languages? What makes the other person in that relationship feel loved? And did you explore that for yourself and how to share that with each other? Do you know how each other's wired from a communication standpoint? Do you understand how you tick, how you move faster, and that person moves slower? Why? Why doesn't she move the same speed I do? Or why doesn't he think about buying groceries the same way I do? And it creates problems in a relationship. So compatibility, the way we communicate, our values, our morals, our beliefs, all those things pile into this big pot and stir it around, and that's what makes a relationship. So I've got 2 pieces of advice for you couples out there if you're interested in having kids. The first piece of advice, and this comes from a guy who's been married for 24 years with 5 kids. First piece of advice I would give you is this: never stop dating each other. Make it a goal to go out at least once a month, just you and your significant other. Spend that time together, hire a competent babysitter, have someone who you can depend on, and then just go out there, turn the phones off, and just look at each other. Have a conversation, talk to each other, and don't let any of the conversation be about the little one. Not what's their next little, 1-year-old party they have to plan or any of that stuff. Just focus on the 2 of you. That's a huge thing that my wife and I have done in the last few years, really helped our marriage out quite significantly. And the second thing I would tell you is to take a personality assessment. 2 years into my wife and my marriage, we were doing a little bit of this. We were just not communicating well. We weren't heading down towards separation or divorce, but it just wasn't pleasant for us. We didn't really know why. And so I came home one day and my wife was upset. And of course I got upset because I'm the emotional guy. And we just weren't on the same page. And so I went to a camp that summer, and a gentleman who was running that camp handed me an assessment. He said, "Alex, you need to take this assessment. It's going to change your life." I said, "Okay, whatever." I took this assessment and found out that I'm this crazy, wild, people-oriented person who loves to be around others and loves to help others. And that was great, but that wasn't the light bulb moment. The light bulb moment was the fact that that's me, but that's not my wife. I don't know who she is in this equation, but she's not that. So I was really wanting to discover who she was, and I asked the gentleman for another assessment. He happily gave me one. I brought it home and I said, "Sweetheart, I don't know if this is going to help us or not, but I think this could be a game changer. Can you take this assessment for me?" She said yes. We found out that we are polar opposites. And we found out that the roles in our marriage and as future parents were not going to be set up on gender basis. My wife is a high achiever. She's always on the go, wanting to excel, do things right the first time. And I'm the touchy-feely, let's have fun, let's be supportive. And now that we have kids, I'm the referee. So I'm breaking up people into corners, and my wife's over here in the red corner, and my daughter's in the blue corner, and I'm the peacemaker. And so that's typically not a guy kind of role. I mean, the guy's like, oh, football, sports, cars, and that's not me. Okay, I'm the fun guy, but I'm also the heart, the soul of our relationship in terms of being that referee. And so I get a lot of fulfillment in making sure that there's harmony in the house, and my wife gets a lot of satisfaction in the fact that people are achieving in the house. Neither one of those is right or wrong. That's just who our roles are. But since we identified those through this assessment, we are now much more comfortable in those roles, and we can easily shift in and out because we know where our strengths are. So for you, if you're just getting started in a relationship, you've been dating 2 weeks, or you've been married for 20 years, I encourage you to take an assessment. There's a link to the assessment below in the description. It will change your life. It will give you the perspective that you need to avoid the potholes that most couples have when children come along, and it will change the way that you communicate. Thanks for watching.